Avatar is a movie about
world domination.
from the moment we arrive on Pandora, we see guns. Lots of them. I don't know what humans are doing 100 years from now, but we're a ways from getting laser guns. What we do get is giant cargo pants. The world of the humans is dying, but they're here to steal the aliens' rock collection. Better still, they've chosen to name these rocks unobtainium. I guess Can't Gideon was taken. We are given no hints as to why these rocks are so special, and the guy who named them is nowhere to be found. Soon after we meet the greatest character in the movie, we meet Dr. Grace Augustine. She had more than 5 years heads up that this guy was replacing his more qualified brother, but decided to wait until he arrived to complain to her boss about it. As Jake takes control of his tiny-handed avatar for the first time, we see many other avatars training. Avatars are extremely expensive, which is why they'll stay here where it's safe until the end of the movie. Meanwhile, they've sent the guy who just logged 20 seconds of link time into the jungle to protect our only hope for peace with the natives. He's the budget model. The next day, Jake gets to meet the greatest character in the movie, Colonel Miles Quaritch, someone Jake is comfortable around because of his time in the Marines. The Colonel mentions the planet's low gravity, but that's the last we hear about it because the Colonel is a habitual liar. Back in his avatar, Jake barely escapes the ugly cousin of Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon. The consequences of dying in your avatar is never made clear to us. At one point, this guy appears to die in his avatar, but wakes up clutching his chest in his human body. So it seems more like a game over situation than a don't go to the light situation. After escaping the giant salamander, Jake unknowingly crosses paths with the jellyfish whisperer, who is going to kill him before realizing the sacred jellyfish have claimed him as one of their own. Jake then gets jumped by the turn-based hyenas, because the guy just can't catch a break. Lucky for him, he has a stalker, and she saves him with some unnecessarily flashy moves. Because Jake has Stockholm Syndrome, he follows her to the village of her people, who greet him with hostility. We heard earlier that the humans have been aggressive towards them, so this is no surprise. But after being revealed as the Chosen One, the Almatakaya decide the best way to study Jake is to take him in as one of their own, which makes about as much sense as I can't believe it's not butter. He then goes through classic Jedi training. It is at this time that we are introduced to the horses. Instead of guiding the witness, I'm going to play you a clip, and I want you to listen. Now what did that sound like to you? Soon after we meet the Raptors, we are introduced to the Banshees. What's cool about these guys is you can't just choose them. They have to choose you. Jake plays both sides just long enough to be useful, then decides to stop and wish the problem away. The Colonel confronts him about this, but Jake tells him, "Don't worry, fam. I got this." Now the Colonel is pissed. Jake leaves to paint his face with bird poop, which prepares him to enter
The Glowstick Forest.
After having a nap, we see that the Tonka trucks are out in force. Recognizing the sheer size and power of these giant lawnmowers, Jake calculates the best course of action to be partially disabling one of them. The Colonel sees this and knocks him into next week, but Jake doesn't miss a beat. Knowing the Colonel is coming to destroy the Deku Tree, Jake returns to the Almatakaya to confess his sins and beg them to evacuate. They decide to stand and die, so honestly, they're gonna have to take some of the heat for what comes next.
Alright, let's turn up the heat. Switch incendiaries. Switch incendiaries. Fire.
Tree lies in ruins, along with Minio Mitakaya, and their clan leader falls with them. Jake's daddy catches him again and puts Baby in a corner. But Jake has friends in high places, so they really can't hold him. But as he's making his escape, the Colonel sees him, kicks open the door, and shoots Grace from a quarter-mile away while holding his breath. I don't care how close he was to Grace, even Jake has to admit that was awesome. They pulled the whole got away without a scratch, oops, maybe not thing, but I called it, so it doesn't count. Eager to save the big meanie, Jake hatches what is apparently a good idea and gets a cooler wand to ride. It's already been disclosed to us that this wand is a big deal, but I wouldn't think it'd be a big enough deal to instantly forgive the guy who got so many of your people killed. Well, it was. The blue team relocated to another big tree, and when Jake shows up with his new toy, all is forgiven. They might even save Grace. The last tree was a big deal, and the loss of it was sure to be the end of the Omatakayan people. But this tree is a really big deal, so if we lose this one, it's over for realsies. Seeing this, Jake solely calls for more backup. Back at the mostly human base, the Colonel locates the Smurfs via a form of dark magic called thermal imaging. Then he decides to bum rush the little rats before they have a chance to procreate. So the Autobots roll out with a plane full of crockpot bombs, and Jake the Snake gets on a Zoom call with the big tree to beg it for help. Meanwhile, the Na'vi prepare to meet their oppressors in battle. They sustain heavy casualties. The big tree sent backup to even the score. Then Jake and the Colonel face off in the sky. With his platoon defeated, the Colonel jumps ship. He then happens to stumble upon Jake's human body, and Norm, who woke up earlier, is nowhere to be seen. It's not looking good for Jake. Lucky him, the jellyfish girl also happens upon the scene. She appears right on time with a new friend to fend off RoboCop, but gets that friend killed almost immediately. Jake shows up right before she's executed to save her. This guy should be a scuba instructor. Jake freezes up for some reason while his real body is attacked. The jello pod it is encased in has the flaw of not directly connecting him to oxygen, and this is exploited by the bad man. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, and the Colonel is no exception. Our hero, our sweet baby boy. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Jake is saved, and the dirty humans are exiled back to their dying planet. Now that the battle's over, the boot camp avatars finally come out of hiding, and for some reason, they get to stick around. With Pandora protected and its enemy defeated, Jake records his final goodbye and reveals to us one last thing.